On the 12th day of November, in the year of 1912, Jack Hudson's old stern wheeler in the darkness pulled away from the public dock at Barry's Bay through the Narrows and the lake. KAMANISKEG she would navigate the second time that day. On board were 9 passengers, a coffin and 3 crew. A dead man they were bringing home to place him in the ground. The pilot, Aaron Parcher, knew the waters oh so well. In the dark of night to Combermere and home the boat was bound. Can you tell me, friend, why fate steps in to take a vessel down, with cries of drowning men to echo far across the waves? A coffin on board a sailing ship is bad luck, so they say. This one saved the lives of 3 young men from an early grave. It began out in Saskatchewan, this tragic tale I tell. John Herman Brown from Chute had gone to work there with his kin. Only God knows why a bullet took him, he died by his own hand. Now his sister's husband, Robert Paschal, brings him home again. The lifeboat that the Mayflower towed was left at Barry's Bay. In nighttime with the wind it caused a problem for to steer. Through the Narrows in the darkness they feared she'd run aground. For a missing lifeboat on that night the captain had no fear. As they sailed around Squaw Point and made their way into the lake, a lamplight from the Parcher farm was shining up the hill. Thoughts of supper and a warm bed later filled the pilot's mind. The captain did not worry, for he knew his pilot's skill. Then suddenly the old Mayflower gave an eerie groan. A thunderous noise then followed, like she was about to die. Hudson knew her time was ended, icy water then rushed in. There was nothing he could say or do, on the bottom she would lie. Can you tell me, friend, why fate steps in to take a vessel down, with cries of drowning men to echo far across the waves? A coffin on board a sailing ship is bad luck, so they say. This one saved the lives of 3 young men from an early grave. Most of the 12 souls made it out through the water's icy blast. Miss McWhirter with her crippled legs sat clinging to her chair. Young Delaney hugged the flagpole as the vessel settled down. The cries of drowning men in icy water filled the air. As he swam towards the Parcher landing, half a mile away, the pilot, Aaron Parcher's voice cried out for all to hear. I'll swim, he said, and bring a boat. Hang on as best you can. Next day his father found his body on the shore he loved so dear. William Bame then tried to take McWhirter from the sinking boat. Age 80 years she struggled, and a life belt wouldn't wear. As the cabin filled with water, he went floating out the door. The last life belt was left behind as he struggled for the air. Then Robert Paschal surfaced, calling out his uncle's name. In vain Bame tried to help him, for the young man couldn't swim. Then terror seized the prairie man as the water pulled him down. The 2 men sank beneath the waves as hope for life grew dim. the vessel sank, Brown's coffin then went sliding off the deck. The airtight box went floating high on KAMANISKEG's waves. 4 freezing men, hands tied together, held on to the box. They drifted to Gull Island, but one man they couldn't save. Later in the night their dried out lighter lit a fire. At home no one was worried, for they knew not of their plight. They kept each other going with a strong will to survive. In frost and snow they suffered through the long November night. As morning came they listened for the Ruby's engine sound. They knew she'd make her voyage up to Craigmont and return. When she missed their waves and signal fire, their hopes began to dim. But rescue came near sundown as their fire ceased to burn. The history of the Mayflower in the Madawaska hills still echoes through the valley, rock to rock and tree to tree. It tells how icy KAMANISKEG took the Mayflower down, and how the 13th Passenger then saved the lives of 3. Can you tell me, friend, why fate steps in to take a vessel down, with cries of drowning men to echo far across the waves? A coffin on board a sailing ship is bad luck, so they say. This one saved the lives of 3 young men from an early grave.